For the uninitiated, I am Jeaneva Scruggs. I am sitting down with our director, Richard Winters, for an interview about Play It Straight, a play he has co-written and directed for us.
all that's true.
Yes, in fact, indeed. So, what is the biggest difference for you when it comes to directing people yourself versus teaching students to act?
It's interesting. So when I started teaching, I was a professional actor before that, but I hadn't done a lot of directing. I'd done some directing in LA and some stuff, but I hadn't done very much because I was acting. But when I became a teacher, I had to start putting on shows, which meant I had to help actors learn how to act. So I had to teach acting and then direct plays simultaneously. And I learned more about theater by having to teach it than I ever did when I was learning it. Trying to explain to somebody else, to get them to do something when they've never done it, particularly beginning actors, forced me to go, well, what do actors do? So I learned a lot about acting from teaching. I learned a ton about acting. And I think it made me a better director because directing, you're working with all these different kinds of actors who have different experience levels. So this one has a good voice, that one needs better voice, that one seems to know how to relax on stage, this one is more so it gave me a lot of experience with a lot of different levels.
Amazing. Yes. I totally understand where the more you break down a concept, like you understand it better.
Right. When you teach something, you start really learning about it when you're trying to explain, like teach someone to drive or use a stick shift or, braid their hair. If you have to teach someone how to braid their hair, you got to know, what is it that I do to braid? It's like that, right? It's really interesting.
So you have a voice as a writer.
Right.
But you also have a vision as a director. So how do you find the healthy balance between those two?
Oh, that's great. So, well, for this play, right? So this play, I wrote a version of it and it's evolved and Gary and I worked together and Carrie and I were spending time on it. And fortunately for Gary and I, because we've done so much theater, it's easy for us to sort of picture kind of how it will appear on stage because we've done so much. But in theater, you want to have a lot of action, things that are happening. You can do a little bit of narration once upon a time, but a lot of it you want to go, get out of my house, no, you get out of there, no, shut up. And people like to watch the actions. So we had to come to how can you tell the story with a lot of actions? And then you get actors on stage and they come up with stuff that we never considered at all. We learn from watching people take our words and turn it into characters that they're performing. So we learned a lot, and we changed things based on what we watched happen on stage. We said, that line is too much writing, there's too much talking, or that there needs something there, or it's too formal. People talk much less formal than writers write. A lot of ums and ahs and not finished sentences, and so we learned all that.
Do you feel like it helps you write more naturally?
We made it, and of course this play is about a high school drama teacher, which I did for 35 years, working with teenagers, which I did. So I kind of already sort of knew how the interaction happens, but to capture the actual reality voice of teenagers is tricky. Because they talk fast, they have their own lingo, they overlap each other, they cut each other off, they're funny, they're ridiculous, they're not listening, they are listening. So
you never know
what's going to pop out of their faces. You just and then go from there to an adult who's in his 50s, talking about what it's been like to be a teacher and to be the teacher. So there's been a lot of voices. There's a narrator voice, and then there's the in the scene voice that we have in the show.
Amazing.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah,
I can say that. I've seen it.
Yeah.
The atmosphere. What was the goal for the atmosphere for the audience to be feeling during the runtime of Play It Straight?
Yeah, what I wanted really was to help people that don't spend time in schools get a sense of really what it's like to be in the classroom, in a school. Because there's a lot of judgments from the outside. Here's what teachers should be doing this, why don't they do that? But to actually deal with all the stuff that teachers have to deal with, but also the administrators. I wanted the audience to come out going, oh, right, it's a big, complicated job. And I never really thought about how complicated the job is. and what could happen, and the relationship between teachers and students, and what that means, and how emotional it can get, and then how you have to separate from it, and then you care about them, but you can't care about them too much, but you can't care about them too little, and all the stuff that people are going through. Every single student's going through something, usually, and the teacher has to monitor all that and try and teach a subject and deal with bells and things and administrators and laws and keeping records and grades and blah, and on and on and on and on.
I think we've done a really good job at putting a school together. Like, we've made an entire school, essentially, for this play. We have a body of students. We have a very talented faculty. And I think the atmosphere has been pretty good, pretty new.
Yeah, I think so. It feels like there's a bunch of students up there and teachers and principals and stuff going down and a parent coming in and you know, announcements and bells and all this stuff that's just part of the whole crazy day of a teacher and a school.
So this play has very powerful themes, a lot of themes relating to LGBT people and their relationship to the school, whether it be students, teachers, administration. If there was any deeper meaning for it for you?
Because I've been in the theater my whole life, so I have a lot of friends who are gay. And when I grew up in LA in the 70s, you know, I wasn't particularly sensitive to any of that stuff. You know, I made the horrible comments and I made fun of things. But I have really close friends who are gay, came out of the closet, who dealt with stuff, and I find myself more and more protective of people that don't have the kind of voice that I do. White guy, straight white guy in the 70s. I had privileges I didn't even know I had. And yet I have friends, you know, that didn't have that, who came out of the closet later. And so I've always felt like I want to find a way to talk about issues like that in a way that people can see it through stories and not me just preaching and yelling. And that's just my medium, is storytelling. So this is, I felt, like a great story that allows me to explore what's happening politically in America and, you know, the intolerance that we have and the courage it takes to be trans, the courage it takes to be gay in America right now. And this story sort of helped me find a way to talk about it through the eyes of one girl, through one student who gets caught up and that has nothing to do with her. She's like an innocent bystander that suddenly gets caught up and gets forced to be outed in a way she doesn't want, and no one can stop it. That's what we love about the story, is that no one's trying to do anything horrible. It's just rules and laws and regulations, and you know, it just gets out of control, out of a problem that wasn't nothing to do with her being gay. What gets the whole thing started had nothing to do with her at all.
Right.
Nothing to do with her brother.
She just gets wrapped up in this whole mess.
Right.
That culminates to the big finale, which is, I feel like it was really well put together.
Thank you.
I do want to give my compliments for the very last segment.
Directing a play is a very interesting, helpless thing, because you do all this work, but like tonight, it's going to be our opening night for this thing. I can't do any of this. Unlike film, where the editor can take, you know, or music, or record something, or a painting, or it's a helpless. It's a real giveaway. The things you use in the art are living human beings that have their own personalities and their own journey, and that's my tools, is humans. You know,
it's a very, very unique art form to really be trusting all of us to make your vision come to life.
Right.
To all input our little bits of our visions into it.
Yeah, and you all depend on each other, right? It's like, now it's yours, and you have to all depend on each other.
Yeah. Very exciting. Very nerve-wracking a little bit, but more excitement than anything. I really feel like.
That's good.
And there you have it. That was my interview with Richard Winters and a few clips of my awesome castmates from the crew of Play It Straight. Come see us every weekend until May 11th, and until then, have a great day, Panthers. Grrr!